Well, stop bowing down and kissing and licking a white man's ass. Martin Luther King was too peaceful. That was his problem. Had his tongue and lips on whitey's ass all the time. Well, and Jesse and Martin, when Lyndon Johnson signed that civil rights, they're standing behind him. Oh, white man love him. Whitey love him. Whitey hates your fucking guts.
That's right. That's right.
The white man's two-faced. As soon as the whiteys come over here, the Indians had to figure out the white man speaks with a fourth tongue to this day he does. Out of both sides of his mouth. This is God's world. This ain't the white man didn't create this world. Stand up and be proud of who you are and what you are. And stop kissing and licking a white man's ass.
Trashy looking crew. They'll change our ways and take our schools away from me and you. It's time for us to make a stand to keep our southern ways. We've got to give a helping hand. It's unity that pays. They're trying to start trouble by mixing up the races. They'd be a whole lot better off by staying in their places. I like our Southland like it is. I'm sure that you do too. Oh, Martin Luther thinks it's his. I know he's wrong, don't you? Move them niggers north, move them niggers north. If they don't like our southern ways, then move them niggers north. Move them niggers north, move them niggers north, move them niggers north.
I think Mississippi has done wonders with our race relations. I think it has been a marvelous thing that our Negroes have come as far as they have, and I feel no sense of guilt, and I do not feel that we need to apologize for what we have done for them. Now, I feel that God had a purpose in creating the races separately. I am so proud of Negroes who are proud of being Negroes. They are what God made them, and I'm proud of being white because I am what my white race has made me. I'm white today because my parents practiced segregation. And I wouldn't be anything but white. And I love Negroes who wouldn't be anything but Negro. I remember...
Her name is Mary King. She's editor of the Mississippi newspaper, The Summit Sun, published in Pike County, an area of racial violence. Her voice is important. It's heard throughout Mississippi, counseling against change, praising the present.
There are several different versions of the 10 Little Nigger Boys. Here is ours, sung by Stanley, Doris, and the children.
10 little nigger boys going out to dine, one over at himself.
And then there were 9.
9 little nigger boys sat up very late, one overslept himself.
And then there were 8.
8 little nigger boys traveling in Devon.
3 of the Moore murders.
What you've seen is just the tip of the iceberg right now.
The Grand Dragon, who oversees the Florida chapter, and a newer member dressed in the white hood agreed to sit down with us, faces covered. Why do you want your face covered here?
Because I care about my job.
They claim to be part of an invisible empire.
We have police officers, paramedics, judges, they're everywhere.
And they say they're 1,000 members strong and growing.
It's another defiance of God's law. It is a worldly way. And then it creeps over into the message. You want to marry a black man, you girls? Don't ask me to do it, because I will not. I refuse. I cannot do it with a conscience toward God. You white brothers, you find a black sister, you want to marry an African or whatever more, don't ask Brother Donnie.
Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, strange fruit hanging from...
I've been collecting little pencils like this. I've seen alligators on jars. I've seen alligator ashtrays, and I've seen them depicted with kids in it. And I was wondering why the children would be there. As a matter of fact, this particular pencil sharpener, this is a pencil sharpener or a pencil holder with a black head of a baby sitting out of its mouth. I didn't pay any attention. I have been collecting for quite a few years, and I have the posters and things like that about different things. And then one day I was down in Florida. I'd gone down with my wife, and I took a trip for myself off to the Wild Blue Yonder, going out to hunt artifacts. And in my quest to hunt artifacts, I came upon a pawn shop in Sanford, Florida. In the pawn shop was a gentleman who owned it. They went and got him and told him I was there, and I wanted to buy some of the shackles he had hanging around the walls. I asked him, could I buy them? He said no. He didn't want to sell anything. He just wanted me to see it. Then we began to talk. And I asked him, I said, look, please let me buy something. I got to take something from here. He says, no. He says, I don't want to sell anything. He said, but I'm going to the back and I'll sit down. Meanwhile, he came out and came back out and he began to talk to me. He said, you know, he said, you probably don't know this. He said, but years ago, he said, my grandfather, before he died, told me of the things they would do. He said he would go down. He said his grandfather said they would go down and they would take babies with them. I said, what do you mean babies? He says, well, let me tell you. He said the slave babies, the slaves who had babies, they would steal the babies during the course of the day, sometimes when the mothers weren't washing. I said, what do you mean babies? I said, you mean babies like 5 or 6 years old? He says, no. These babies, some would be infants, some would be a year old. He said some would be toddlers. He said they would grab these children and take them down to the swamp and leave them in pens like little chicken coops. They would go down there at night, take these babies and tie them up because they hunted the big bull alligators. These big bull alligators were not raised on the farms. They were in the wild. These alligators would weigh 600, 700, 800 pounds. Those are the ones they wanted. They would skin them, make the wallets, get the meat, do different things with them. He said, but what they were doing was tie them up, put a rope around their neck and around their torso, around here, and tie it tight. He said, the baby, I said, well, what would the babies be doing? He said, well, my grandfather said they'd be screaming. He said, what would you do? He said, just let them scream. He said, what they would do, it would help them to chum the water. He said, when they would throw the babies in tied to this rope, he said, in a matter of minutes, he said, the alligators were on them. He said, the alligators would clamp his jaws on that child. As a matter of fact, once he clamped on him, he was really swallowed. You couldn't see anything but the rope. And we would pull the alligator in and tie his nose and hit him in the head with an axe, a pickaxe. He said we would then drag him to the shore. We'd drag him to the shore and leave him lay, and we would do it again, maybe 2 or 3 times a night. He said, I said, so what do you mean? He said, well, yeah, they were taking these babies and killing them for alligator bait. I said, so all these things I've been collecting, all these things I've been collecting are really, really something that I can really talk about and say they're of a truth. By what you say, he said, I'm telling you, he said, nobody wants to talk about it. He said, I'm only telling you because you're here. I may never hear from you again. He said, but these things actually depict the acts that they did to slave babies back in the Bayou country and down the south. They did this. They hunted alligators with these babies. That's why they call alligator bait.
Please understand, all these things will happen to us until we turn back to Elohim and keep his commandments. We're in the land of our enemies, so expect the worst. In Deuteronomy 28, the Torah informs us that our enemies are a ruthless, savage nation. They have no pity on the old or the young. They're the Gentiles. Please understand, all these things will happen to us until we turn back to Elohim and keep his commandments. We're in the land of our enemies, so expect the worst.
Over here, the Indians had to figure out the white man speaks with a 4th tongue to this day he does. Out of both sides of his mouth.